Today is Alex Sarr Day, and we are looking at his 2024 NBA Draft profile. Start off with his strengths, move into his weaknesses, and then we'll talk about where do I see him, what draft fit, what draft range, and some of his comps. So Alex Sarr is a guy who I've had as number one player on my draft board for most of this year, and I felt really confident about that up until the last couple of games I watched of Alex Sarr. And now I have to be honest, I have some questions and some current concerns. So first, let's start off with what he does well. Alex Sarr is like 7'1", around 215 pounds, and he moves really well. He's extremely athletic. He runs the court well. He's fast. He's agile. His feet, he's got quick feet for somebody his size. He's got good hands. He's just a tremendous athlete for somebody who is 7'1", 215 pounds. And with that comes a tremendous defensive ability. He's a good shot blocker. He averaged 1.5 blocks per game in the Australian Basketball League, the NBL, and didn't play too many minutes. Played around 20 minutes, so that says a little bit about his shot blocking ability. And then, to me, the thing that was most impressive about Sarr was his ability to guard on the perimeter, especially against smaller players. He's able to mirror their quickness with his size and length, and then also has this like aggressiveness, especially as the year went on in the playoff game, especially that I watched of Alex Sarr. That was the number one positive that I got from that game was, man, this guy could definitely guard on the perimeter in the NBA. In the game against the G League Ignite, he showed off a nice versatility for hitting like a 10 to 12 foot mid-range jumper. They had a good amount of confidence in it, and that game was the game that really showed me that this guy could be, a top pick in this year's draft. He can hit the three. And the other thing that I like about him is he has a good feel for the game. And that you notice with his spacing, his ability to play off of his teammates, and his ability to time cuts for either alley-oop opportunities or just backdoor cuts for, layups and dunks in general. He has a good feel for the game in that sense. Now, what are some of his weaknesses? So he can hit the three, but he's not a good shooter yet. He shot 29% on nearly 2 attempts per game in the Australian League and in the NBL, and he also shot 71% from the free throw line on 2.5 attempts. So the free throw line number is important to me because it says that the three-point shooting wasn't like a fluke. It seems to be in line with about the shooter that he is. So he's going to have to improve there to really maximize his NBA potential. And the other part of the reason why that's important, rather, is that I think he's a guy who actually profiles more as a power forward than he does as a center, which is where some of the concerns for me started to elevate, because when I watched him, especially in that last game against Marcus Lee, who I think is an NBA-level athlete but not an NBA-level player, a guy who bounced around in college a little bit, played for Kentucky and Cal, but didn't really play in the NBA, but was a good test for Sarr. And Sarr kind of struggled with his physicality inside. And yes, Sarr is still a teenager. He's going to get stronger, but that was a little bit of a concern for me because it's only going to be more difficult at the NBA level. And so that's why I think there could be some elements where he could be better, at least early on, as a power forward, kind of like an Evan Mobley was earlier in his career. And Mobley certainly profiles more as a center moving forward. Let's see. So then also his playmaking skills. He averaged basically even assist to turnover ratio, slightly negative, not like 1 assist per game, 0.8, 0.9 turnovers. Somewhere in there, so maybe slightly positive, but basically around even. He did show some flashes where he could make some nice passes, but it wasn't a strength of his game. And yeah, I would say that would probably sum up Alex Sarr right now as a player. He's really athletic. He can be very versatile, but he's got to develop more consistency with his jumper. And then he's got to get stronger for me to really believe he can be a center. So where do I see him being drafted? I still think he goes number 1 through 5. I just think the tools, his potential, just in this draft in particular, has him solidified to go 5. I think would be a horrible worst case scenario. I really think it's 1 through 3 is the most realistic. In terms of a comp, I kind of alluded to it earlier. It's not Evan Mobley. It's actually somebody more like a Jonathan Isaac for me. And I've also seen Jaren Jackson Jr. I could see that too. I just think that that's kind of the mold. It's more the guy who's really a power forward who can play center rather than a guy who is a center that could play power forward. So I think those are the type of players. Really good defensive player. Can block shots, can stay in front of smaller players, but the offensive skills still need to be developed. And then fit. I think the Raptors would be a great fit for Alex Sarr. Poeltl's still there. Jakob Poeltl's still there, so he doesn't have to play center right away. He can play power forward, and then that can allow some versatility with a guy like Scotty Barnes, with an RJ Barrett, with Emmanuel Quickly. You can start to see a nice young core develop there. And then also teams like the Wizards, they could certainly use young talent. And the Blazers, I actually think could be intriguing because even if they keep Ayton and they have Sarr at the power forward position, it opens the door for them to maybe keep Anthony Simons if Scoot Henderson pans out. You can play 2 smaller guards like they used to back in the Lillard-McCollum days, but now you've got a front court with real size that can kind of make up for it. Kind of like the Cavs have been trying to do, but haven't necessarily figured out all the pieces yet, and it's kind of looking like they may need to decide between Mobley or Allen. But that's what I think about Alex Sarr. I think he's a very intriguing prospect, but there's certainly some concerns that say maybe it's a bit of a risk going number 1. So that's what I think about Sarr. Next up for me is going to be the Kentucky guards, Rob Dillingham and Reed Sheppard. So let me know what you think about Alex Sarr, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.